As I was doing research for this project, I began to pay close attention to how my peers interact with one another on the University of Iowa campus. Whether you're on the bus, in a classroom, walking on the sidewalk, there's one common denominator. Everyone, more or less, looks like this. Heads down, unapproachable, mean, scowling faces. Not quite the landscape you'd hope for in order to make shining new friendships. More often than not, when I look down at these people's screens, not snooping too much obviously, they were scrolling on Instagram, on TikTok, on X, formerly known as Twitter, all these different platforms. They were all on them, and instead of looking up and maybe interacting with somebody that might be their new best friend, they're glued to their screen. And so I hear you saying, Leona, why is this a problem? Why does it matter? I'm enjoying my time scrolling on TikTok. I hear you, random person. I hear you. What I also hear is the US Surgeon General saying that my generation is the loneliest generation. 67% of Gen Z, as opposed to 44% of baby boomers, feels deeply lonely, with young adults being twice as likely to feel lonely than middle-aged adults, even though we have larger social circles. The way I see this having become a problem is through our overconsumption and reliance on social media for our communication. One article describes this as computer-mediated communication. We can't seem to interact with people without a screen between us. One way you see this is through the way modern dating operates. In 2021, it was cited that more than 50% of couples meet online. Now, I don't see this as being inherently a problem, as 2 people in my family met their spouses online. Where I do see the issue is how these apps are meant to profit off of your scrolling. It's meant to profit off of you in order for you to meet what I would argue is the most important relationship in your life.
And these apps are meant to be addictive. We see this in the way that the companies boast that successful experiences drive repeat usage. That's not the goal of the app. If the goal of the app is for you to find your forever person, then they shouldn't be designing it to be highly addictive, which makes it harder for people to go out and seek relationships.
Another way I see social media affecting people and their relationships is by the way people now make friends with each other. Even when we meet people in person, we still consult social media for information on the person. It's computer-mediated communication. We can't handle not having the phone being involved in our relationships, which I believe is stifling organic interaction and connection. An important thing we all need to remember and be aware of is the incredibly addictive nature of social media. It directly goes to your dopamine centers when you're scrolling. That's why you can't stop. Because what if you exit the app and you miss the video that's gonna change your life or make you laugh so hard that chocolate milk spills out of your nose? What if you miss the video? You can't miss the video. You can't miss it. You have to keep scrolling. You have to keep scrolling. In consequence, we become slaves to these platforms. And why in the world would you ever want to interact with somebody in these social situations, on the bus, on the sidewalk, in your classroom, when you get the instant gratification and dopamine hits that can take months to cultivate with somebody you meet? So what's next? People are lonely. My generation is lonely. I feel lonely often. What we can do, and what I'd implore you all to do, is to be aware of this behavior and make active steps to connect with people in person. That's a positive thing. That'll always be a positive thing. Even if you don't meet your new lifelong bestie, you can still make a difference in somebody's day and make them feel seen. If you pull your eyes up from your phone, look around, and give people a smile. So simple. Now, a solution that I could see being implemented in the US is already being implemented in Australia. They are banning kids under 16 from having their own social media account. They're not banning kids from the internet entirely, merely having their own social media account. This means that big companies can't create algorithms that target these children and keep them addicted to the platforms.
What I find even better about the bill is it's not the parents or children that'll face the repercussions if they're caught on the social media platform. It'll be the companies that will have to pay fines if a child under 16 is caught having an account.
Social media is a wonderful tool, but in the hands of somebody who's just learning how to manage their emotions, just learning how to connect with people, it's not helpful. The addictive nature does not help somebody learn how to make friends with each other. And that, in my opinion, is why we see people becoming lonelier and lonelier. There were 2 rebuttals I saw against this bill. One, from the kids who this bill will be affecting.
We will also be invisible with this ban. We won't be able to share our views or opinions, and we won't be able to hear others' views and opinions, political or just about anything.
While this is true that voices under 16 won't be heard on these platforms, I believe that if these kids spend their first 16 years pursuing knowledge elsewhere, they will contribute far more substance to the platforms, and on top of that, they will be pushed to learn other ways to advocate for themselves and their views besides just hitting repost on a headline on TikTok.
They say, this is where we get our information from. I argue you can get your information from the internet and actually learn how to do good quality research. The other rebuttal I saw against this bill was that it will completely override the will of the parents, and that the parents should have agency on what their kids are and are not allowed to be doing.
I completely understand this view, as we don't want the government playing mommy and daddy, but I don't see it this way. I see this as the government intervening and big companies making lifelong consumers out of children. These platforms are fun, but they are not made to benefit you. They are designed to take your time, attention, and money. And children don't need to grow up being conditioned by these platforms. 2 of the biggest advocates for this bill were mothers who lost their young children to suicide, induced by intense bullying they received online. This isn't the only negative impact from social media that's been studied. Let kids be kids and let them develop outside of the iron grip of the social media empire.
Now, these aren't perfect answers, but I do think this bill is worth looking into and could be something that could be implemented to help future generations not be slaves to the social media empires. And I think that's something worth looking into.